Excellency, the Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, I know your time is very limited, but we appreciate very much this meeting this evening before and in between a very tight agenda that you have. Your Excellency, you're sitting here among leaders of Keren HaYesod and among future leaders of Keren HaYesod. All came to Jerusalem for our annual conference to show their support and, I believe, to charge or recharge their batteries as to what are the issues on the agenda of the State of Israel. These are your foot soldiers in an army that doesn't wear uniform. But deep in the heart, it is exactly like what soldiers feel. Devotion, dedication, and readiness to do whatever is necessary. And like you've seen many times in the last few years, at least when I'm in this position, these actions, or the requests that we receive here, become actions in many places around the world. So I thank you for the collaboration, and I know you're in a rush, so please, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Thank you. As we say, because we started late, we'll end early. I'm very happy to see you. Again, my friend Moody and Joanna and all of you, we had a brief opportunity to speak with some of you today, and the advantage of a short time is that you have to be brief and to the point. So the first thing is to say thank you. Thank you for being ambassadors of Israel, champions of Israel, and of the Jewish people. And it's much needed these days. We know that there's a full campaign always to delegitimize the State of Israel, and the only answer you have for lies is the truth. And you have to carry a candle of truth to dispel the darkness. And I think that every one of you does that. In addition to that, we want to cement the ties between our people, the Jewish people, and the State of Israel, which is their state. It's always their state. I think that message is obviously eternal and important to consolidate all the time. And the third, of course, is to strengthen the State of Israel, not only the bonds between our peoples, but strengthen the State of Israel. We are undergoing a great convulsion, historic convulsion. And Israel has fared well in these two simultaneous earthquakes that are shaking our region and shaking the world. The first is an economic convulsion. Israel is a member of the OECD. It's now a developed country. It has led the world, the OECD world, the advanced countries, in growth. And we have the lowest unemployment in 30 years. So we have shouldered the economic crisis that is still within us, and probably in all the countries that you come from. We have done consistently better than nearly all of the advanced countries, and that's good news. And people do hear wondrous things. You're holding up these cell phones? Yeah. You know what Waze is? You heard of Waze? Yeah, okay. You know, remember the joke about Israel? It used to say, how do you make a small fortune in Israel? You start with a big fortune. Remember that? Yeah. No, it's no longer true, as you can see. Okay, so we have, you know, the minds of our people and the genius of our entrepreneurs, and that is picking up our economy. And we have other things that we're doing. We're reforming it and making it adapt to a modern, global, competitive world. This is one thing that has happened, and it's helped weather the storm. Beyond weathering the storm, we've done very well. The second challenge is, of course, what is called the Arab Spring, but has turned up to be an Islamist tide from Morocco to Pakistan. And when you look at all these states around us, and you see one stable, democratic, modern, advanced society, and it's State of Israel. I think that more and more people around the world can understand that and can relate to that if we tell that to them. But, you know, I was recently in China, and they were interested in one thing: technology, 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 Israeli technology. And now I was in Poland last week, and they were interested in one thing: well, technology, 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 Israeli technology. And the president of Colombia, is there anyone here from Colombia? No? The president of Colombia was here, and he was interested in one thing: saying. So Israel has the ability to reach out to a lot of countries, including some in the region, in order to advance common interests, but also to increase our strength. But in all these things, in all the things we do, either in the economic front or on the security front, against potent challenges, missile challenges, nuclear challenges, we always rely at the end on our wits and on our hearts, and on the solidarity with you, with the Jewish people. And that's really the most important bind, I would say the most important tie that we have. And I want to thank you for what you're doing and continue to do to strengthen this bond and to strengthen the state of Israel. I know that you work at it every day, and I want to thank you for every day that you put in for the Jewish people and the state of Israel. Toda rabba. Do you have any questions? Ask.
Prime Minister, thank you very much. Jason Rubinoff from Toronto, and I'm one of these, as Moody talked about, one of the future young leaders. And so you have a group of about 24 young people from all over Europe, South America, Australia, and number one, they're humbled and appreciative for your time. But you know, the question that they would ask is, as young people, you know, just your thoughts on sort of taking the next step to greater leadership.
You want to be leaders? Don't be politically correct. Just tell the truth from inside, what you feel. You should choose your words, but essentially tell the truth, because otherwise nobody will follow you. That's my only advice. I mean, I can give you 500 pieces of advice, but that's the most important thing. What is the deepest thing that you feel? I think you wouldn't be here if you didn't feel a deep connection to Israel and the Jewish people. Express it. Be proud. Give it everything you've got and express it publicly. That doesn't make people move away from you. It makes people attracted to you, because that's what they want to see. They want to hear truth and commitment. That's what leadership is about. The other thing leadership is about is making tough choices, because nobody needs leaders to make easy choices between what is easy and good and what is hard and difficult. That's easy. You do the good thing that is easy. You don't need leaders for that, okay? And you don't need leaders to do an internet poll, right? You don't need that. If all the herd is going one way, to be a leader is not to rush in the head of the herd and continue rushing where the herd is going, right? It's to turn, to suggest a different direction. That is what is required. And for that, you have to have inner strength and conviction. You want more? That's the most important thing. That's the most important thing. Follow your convictions and give expression to them. And be prepared to be unpopular. Okay? Anything else?
Yes, I would like just to make a comment beside this.
I see that you
Very
want all the
important,
time to say.
Very important for me. I used to live in Israel when Entebbe happened. And I carry your brother Yoni with me, because I remember waking up with screams in my house. They were so excited about just bringing everybody. So I just wanted you to know that I always remember Yoni for that he gave his life for the country.
Toda rabba. Thank you. Thank you. Toda.
I'm Judy Feldcar from Toronto, Canada. I have a question for you, because relating to the fact that I ran the rescue secretly of the Syrian Jews. Where is the state of Israel in terms of the publicity of Jewish refugees from Arab countries? I know there's been some in the United Nations. I know there's been internal. But, Mr. Prime Minister, we don't hear a powerful statement coming from the state of Israel to answer the Palestinian propaganda on refugees. And we do have as we all know, 850,000,
Ha.
especially
Ah,
plus.
it's a bigger number now.
Plus all the Syrians that are here now in Israel. But it just seems that this is something that's lacking and is a great piece of propaganda that was desperately needed, at least in North America.
Well, one thing I can tell you is that we have a special task force working on it now in our National Security Council, and it was in the office of, in your office. And I'm the foreign minister, so thank you for collaborating with the foreign minister. Exactly on this, anticipating a potential negotiation. I don't know if we'll have such a negotiation, but you're right. There were two sets of refugees created by the same war that the Arabs forced on us in 1948, possibly somewhat greater number of Jewish refugees, all absorbed in this tiny speck of a country without oil, and it's gone. I mean, everybody's integrated, and this is Israel's success, and yet the same is not true of the Palestinian Arab refugees who were created, again, by the same Arab invasion. And they keep the problem alive, and 65 years later they come and say, well, solve our problem, but we don't solve yours, you've already paid. So I think that this is, you know, the ones who caused the problem should solve the problem. But we're looking into this question. We actually raised it in our negotiations with the Palestinians, to the extent we had any, because they don't really want to talk about this, or for that matter, peace. I take your point that we should make it more public, and I will. Julie?
Your Excellency, Mr. Prime Minister, before I offer a more formal vote of thanks, I have to share with you a sentiment expressed by the taxi driver that brought Henry and I here this evening. When he heard the address, he said, "Eize Hamoud Bibi." There is no translation. He continued to say, "Tell the
I'm
Prime
not sure
Minister
that's what I would like to hear.
to tell you to continue what you're doing." So on a more formal level.
I thank my uncle very much.
We really want to offer our heartfelt gratitude to you for giving us the privilege, addressing us here today, and to quote you, "You can count on us to cement the ties and to strengthen the bonds as we carry out our noble efforts on behalf of the Jewish people."
תודה רבה.
Thank
תודה.
you.
תודה רבה. תודה, thank you.